Right. Hello. Sorry, I'm slightly late. I just had a brain freeze. I don't know what happened there. I do. I just started daydreaming. Yeah, we're going to look at Sojourner Truth. And this is following on from other notable women of faith, historic women of faith, I should say. And yeah, without further ado, drum roll, please, etc. Okay, so she had no church that was available to her. She had no congregation, obviously, with whom to worship. Isabella van Wagenen, I'm going to pronounce it, was a slave. And she was just forced to make do with what she had, or what little she had, I should say. And so the place that was most accessible to her and most, like her most frequent habitat, I guess, was the outdoors. So what she did is she wove an arbor out of willow brush on an island at the convergence of two streams near to her master's farm. And it was in this place that she created herself beneath this tangle of fauna and branches, and besides a waterfall, which sounds pretty lovely, to be honest, that she worshipped. And she spoke with him as familiarly as if he had been a creature like herself. And that's a direct quote. So she would often speak to God, relating all of her troubles. And I imagine what with her station in life, they were, lots of them, as it were. And her suffering also, she relayed to God in the most minute detail. And she would pause from time to time to ask, do you think that's right, God? And she begged to be delivered from evil. So at this altar, this makeshift altar that she had created beneath the willow arbor, Isabella bargained with God, and she promised to live a life of purity and self-sacrifice for others if he would release her from the odorous burden of slavery, of secular slavery. So in the late autumn of 1826, I just realised I forgot to give you a notable date. She heard an answer to her prayers. She received an answer, and God instructed her to take her infant child and to flee from her master's farm, and by doing so, leave her husband and her other 4 children behind her. Right, so she was born in rural Ulster County, New York, and she was born a Dutch-speaking slave. She wasn't born speaking, obviously, to a Dutch-speaking family into slavery, servitude. She was sold several times before she arrived at the farm of John and Sally Dumont. So as master and mistress, they physically abused and they sexually abused Isabella during the 16 years that she lived with them. And when she finally heard the call from God and escaped with her infant daughter, she walked 5 miles to the home of an anti-slavery family couple who took her in and who also paid John Dumont the $25 that it cost to cover the remainder of her contract, because she was due to be released under general emancipation on August 4th, 1827. So a month before her official emancipation, i.e. her deliverance, her freedom, her determination wavered, and she decided to return to Dumont's farm. However, just as she was about to step into his carriage, she was again struck with a vision from God. And God revealed himself to her with all the suddenness of a flash of lightning, showing her in the twinkling of an eye that he was all over, that he, in fact, pervaded the universe, known and unknown universe, and that there was no place where God was not. And that's just reminded me of a psalm. Yeah, I'll think of that and potentially post it in the description, but holding your breath is always fun anyway. But yeah, someone can remind me, please. So all her unfulfilled promises, were brought up in front of her like a like a turbulent sea whose waves are just getting higher and higher, and her soul, which appeared to her at least as a mass of lies, shrunk back from the awful look, that's a direct quote, of him whom she had formerly spoken to, as a friend, as it were, as if she had been talking to herself, like to somebody who knew her as well as she did. And when she recovered from this vision, she found that Dumont had left without her, unsurprisingly. "Oh God, I did not know you were so big," she exclaimed out loud, and then walked back into her neighbour's home to carry on with her life that was there at that time. So in the months that came after this, Isabella began to feel the presence of a friend who, and I quote, "appeared to stand between herself and an insulated deity, like an umbrella had been interposed between her scorching head and a burning sun." So who are you, was her frequent question to the comforting presence, until finally, after bending both soul and body with the intensity of this desire, till breath and strength seemed failing, an answer came to her saying distinctly, "It is Jesus." So Isabella had heard of Jesus despite her lack of church, congregation, clergy, etc. However, up until this point, she had always considered him merely a quite important man, basically, like Lafayette or Washington. Now she came to realise exactly who Christ was and how much he loved her. And his love, she said, flowed as from a mountain. It's so lovely. So not long after her baptism, Holy Spirit baptism, as she later referred to the experience, she moved to New York City, which is, of course, in New York, where she became an itinerant preacher with the Methodist Perfectionists, not heard of them, a community that broke from the traditional Methodists to pursue a more radical practice of simplicity and simple living through the Holy Spirit. So in New York City, she came under the spell, as it were, of a street corner preacher, Robert Matthews, who called himself the prophet Matthias. And I'm starting to, I don't really think I like him already. Maybe he'll come around. He operated the kingdom of Matthias, if you're not too shy. Basically, I'm going to go out there on a limb, a cult. So Isabella willingly gave him money from her savings, and she also served as his housekeeper. So we can presume that she was pretty naive. She'd been pretty isolated apart from abuse and some kindness before that, but very, I guess, small town as opposed to big city. So her narrative reports that she was physically abused by Matthias and hints that his wife may have sexually abused her also. So she did free herself from his grip in 1835 when he was accused of murder. So he didn't slack. He got about in his lunch hour, as it were. And her experience with the kingdom, as it were, suggests that she, although on her way to like independence, self-confidence, like, inner emancipation, as it were, she still craved a structure and a family and struggled somewhat with finding her place in the world. So, June 1st now, 1843, God renamed Isabella Sojourner. Because I was to travel up and down the land, showing the people their sins. Sorry, the way it's written, I believe she may have been Southern, I don't know. Being a sign unto them, and being a sign unto them. So she asked God for a last name, as you do. You're not Cher or anything, or Madonna. Because everybody else had two names, and the Lord gave me Truth, because I was to declare the truth to the people. So Sojourner Truth now, as we're going to call Isabella, she left home at dawn on that day that she got her name, on Pentecost, and she crossed the bridge to Long Island, and that was that, basically, the beginning of the next part of her life. So, remembering the fate of Lot's wife, she refused to look over her shoulder until she felt, bless her, she felt sure that the wickedness of the city was so, too far behind her to be visible. So she preached at camp meetings around New England until the cold weather came about. And then she made her way to Northampton, Massachusetts, where she joined, God bless her, a utopian commune, I see here, called the Northampton Association of Education and Industry. Doesn't sound too hippy-dippy, so we're all right, even though hippies hadn't come around yet. Anyhow, the association offered Sojourner an opening into the suffragette and abolitionist movements. So she gave her first anti-slavery speech in the autumn of 1844 in Northampton, and in May of 1845, she spoke to the annual meeting of the American Anti-Slavery Society in New York City. Whoop, as it were. So she stayed in Northampton even after the commune that she'd been a part of dissolved, and it was there that she dictated her narrative of Sojourner's Truth, which was self-published and printed on credit, bless her, in 1850. She charged 25 cents per copy and acted as a distributor, bookseller, editor, as one does. And she used these earnings to repay the printer and pay off the $300 mortgage on her newly purchased house. I was born too late, it seems. Either way, her most famous speech was made in 1851 at the Ohio Women's Rights Convention in Akron. So the Stone Church was the name, and it was, I guess, pretty warm on that day, and it was packed out with men and women who had come to listen to anti-slavery and feminist, as they were at that time, speakers. So she pretty much captivated her audience with her somewhat intimidating physical presence and with her words. She was almost 6 feet tall. She had a pretty deep and booming voice, so she presented quite a figure, I imagine. And she was also a skilled orator, and she used humour to soften her scathing critiques. Sounds like someone I know. Right, so anyway, her manner of speaking undercut the intensity of her language, explains her biographer, who is Nell Urban Painter. To capture and hold her audience, she communicated her meaning on several different levels at once, accompanying sharp comments with non-verbal messaging, e.g. winks and smiles, and provoking the laughter that was so often reported. The humour was pretty shrewd, for it allowed her to get away with sharp criticism, but it permitted some of her hearers to ignore her meaning. Right, the speech, which has come to be known as Ain't I a Woman, is both like legend and history, in part because of a published newspaper article in the New York Independent, which came 12 years after the Akron Conference. So Frances Dana Gage, who was the article's author, embellished and exaggerated Sojourner's original performance. And there's some question of whether Sojourner even uttered this rhetorical question, ain't I a woman, even once, never mind, the 4 times that were included in the article. Marius Robinson, who served as secretary of the convention, printed Sojourner's address in full shortly after she made it. And whilst the speech, was a strong declaration of the rights of women, it didn't include the phrase that came to symbolize her latterly. So by 1858, she was famous enough to convene a series of her own meetings in Indiana, and one of which prompted an incident that increased her fame. I was going to say notoriety, but fame. Right, so a meeting of pro-slavery men challenged her authenticity as a woman, because she was, a bit beefy, I guess, that she was pretty tall and statuesque. Either way, they claimed that she was a man in disguise. Oh, the ad homs are the best. And it pretty much polarized her audience. The pro-slavery advocates insisted, princes among men to a man, all of them, they insisted she step into a side room and show them her breasts, as one does, and thereby prove her gender. I've seen some men with some pretty decent chesticles, as it were. Either way, what she did is quietly, and I guess with some dignity, she disrobed before the entire packed hall. And she responded to, verbally, and she shamed her critics. In vindication of her truthfulness, she told them that she would show her breasts to the whole congregation, reported the Boston Liberator. That it was not to her shame that she uncovered her breast before them, but to their shame. And as her biographer notes, Truth had turned the challenge upside down. Her skillful remaking employed the all too common exhibition of an undressed black body with its resonance of a slave auction that undressed, like women for sale, basically. What had been intended as a degradation became a triumph of embodied rhetoric. So her fame, unsurprisingly, I guess, brought with it its fair share of prejudice, threats, harassment, fun times, as it were. At one point, when she was told that the building she was scheduled to preach in would be burned down, she responded, "Then I will speak to the ashes." Bless her, I like her. But her quick wit and determination, didn't always serve as protection. After being physically assaulted and injured by one of many, but one particularly violent mob, she was forced to walk with a cane for the rest of her life. So she used her reputation and her fame during the Civil War by helping recruit black troops for the Union Army, which included her own grandson, who enlisted in the 54th Massachusetts Regiment. And when she met Abraham Lincoln, who was serving president at the time, she described him as both cordial and kind. And she spoke to him with, the usual honesty, down-to-earth kind of humour. "I told him that I had never heard of him before he was talked of for president," she explained in her narrative. "He smilingly replied, 'I had heard of you many times before that.'" Right. She continued, even after Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, she continued to rally for change. And in 1865, she advocated for the desegregation of streetcars in Washington, D.C. by riding in cars that were designated for whites. And this was an act that resulted in the dislocation of her arm by just the one angry conductor. So later in her life, she argued for the right of former slaves to own land and supported the movement to secure land grants from the federal government. Ultimately, however, she was unable to sway Congress. She's remembered as one of the foremost leaders of the abolition movement and a very early advocate for women's rights at the same time. And during her later years, she broadened her advocacy interests to include prison reform, just like Elizabeth Frye, who I started this little series on, and also on property rights and universal suffrage. One of the few of her chosen causes that she did see was realised within her own lifetime was abolition of slavery. And the constitutional amendment that barred suffrage discrimination based on sex wasn't ratified until 1920. So it's only been around 102 years. And that was almost 40 years after her death. She died just before dawn on November 26, 1883. She claimed to have been at least 105, potentially. Oratory was her strong point and maths wasn't, because she was probably closer to 86. Although, to be fair, the treatment she received in those first years potentially felt a lot longer. regardless of what her age was, she strongly believed that it was a person's personal accomplishments as opposed to their chronological age that defined them. And to determine also, whether a life should be considered long or short. And that's quite true, actually, when you think of it. Some have been on earth scores of years, yet die in infancy, she said in her narrative. And from her bed, she spoke her last words, "Be a follower of our Lord Jesus." And that was to a Grand Rapids, Michigan news reporter. And that was 2 days before she died. Some good last words as well. According to her own measure of what constitutes a long life, she lived a very long life. Just her list of, accomplishments and, the things she overcame, the way she started. She had a relationship with God when there was no one to show her the way other than Christ. And she didn't even really have a right relationship with him because she hadn't been able to find out who he was because of the lack of Bibles, people, clergy, church buildings, etc. And even though she had this massive list of accolades and accomplishments, her last words prove, if nothing else, that she placed one of her accomplishments like far above the rest. And she was, a follower of our Lord Jesus, the way she invited others to be. So there you have it. That's Sojourner, aka Isabella. Right, got to the end of it pretty lively. If you have any questions, that would be okay. They don't necessarily have to be. Yeah, I did, Jeff. They don't have to be on Sojourner because I literally know nothing other than what I've just read to you. But, all right. Hello. If you have any little comments or anything to say, or hit me with it, as it were, and I should probably turn on the live chat instead of the top chat. And that's done. Otherwise, I might keep it snappy. Make like an alligator, as it were. But yeah. Anything? Bill, what do you mean, love? Yeah, only her age. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty solid stuff, I think. Right. If everyone could just not type anything at all, that'd be great. That really made me feel confident in my first stream for a while. That isn't Speaker's Cornery. But no pressure. There's always a rebel. There's always the one. So that's a good suggestion, Baz. There's plenty of. I've got like quite a few more to be getting on with, but Egeria. Am I thinking of the same Egeria? Egeria of Egypt. I don't know where the Egypt bit came. Did she write a journal and go to? I thought she was European. The Egeria I'm thinking of was a good few hundred years ago, but she kept a journal, and she went and visited, I think, the Holy Land and documented what she saw there. But maybe the psalm I was thinking of. Hissed the bit in my from the where can I hide from you? From the east at the highest peak you were there, at the lowest, I don't know, nadir or whatever, the lowest doodah, you are there. From the east to the west. That's what I would have looked for in my Bible, but there's so many psalms, John. But thank you. I mean, if you aye, he's only pulled it out of the bag. If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there. Thank you, John. So anyone who can't see the chat because it's processing afterwards, it's Psalm 139, 8 to 10. But I reckon if you continue on to 11, there's more where God is, because I don't want to spoiler alert it, he is everywhere. So, yeah. then I'm thinking of a different Nigeria Baz, because this one certainly wasn't a nun. Interesting. That's the second time I've thought that was the only instance of the name I'd hear. I like it, John. I like it a lot. Dragon said it's one of her favourites. I'm assuming she means favourite Psalms, because I feel like her favourite verse is one of mine, but it's possible that she's like me in as much as she has like a top 10 list of favourites. Like there's always more favourites behind the first favourites, as it were. Pretty good book, bestseller. Got Jesus in it. What more do you want? Written by the Holy Spirit. You know, everything God wants us to know in there. Most shoplifted book. Yeah, I think maybe we're thinking of the same person, Beth. I'll have a look into. I don't know if I did a video. No, I did a Bible plan that had her in it. That's what it was. It wasn't a video. Yeah, I can do. I will stick it on my mental list. It's on, as it were. I got a few to get through, because there's some pretty inspiring. A friend of mine said to me the other day, I said, "Oh, I'm going to speak about Sojourner Truth," and they were like, "Yeah, but that's just for women, isn't it?" And I was like, "No, you know." Thank you, Jean. Welcome. Nice to see you. Yeah, so it's not just for women. I used to do, when I did the Discord lectures, I used to do, I did used to do no men allowed kind of voice thingies, but they did put on high voices and come in anyway. But no, this stuff is about women, but I wouldn't say that some men need to know more about women. You won't hear me saying it again. Jordan. Sorry, Jordan's trying to get rid of me so she can rewind it. But yeah, you can't do it while it's live. Sorry, Jordan. It's yeah. And I did promise you, Jordan, you can choose the next lady. So I have to send you a list. Sorry. But yeah. Oh, thank you very much, Jean. Dragon, that's lovely. If you're speaking to me. And also the way you've spelled absolutely or absolute is also the way that we name a vodka in this country. So happy days. She's winning on both fronts. Yeah. Good run, Jordan. Right, any questions? Oh, sorry, Carol. I just saw you there, lovey. Yes, almost 6 feet tall. And we got to the part where they tried to say that she was a dude and basically threatened to strip her in another room, and then she just did a Janet Jackson, as it were, right in front of everybody. So I like her. I hadn't really heard of her, to be honest. I hadn't, I've got to admit it. But yeah, if you I guess I could take suggestions for other women like Baz did, but I do have a list that I'm working through. But yeah, definitely Carol, especially coming from like quite a low station and just showing them what princes they were. Yes, it is Jeff, but I will claim that as somebody near to Europe. That'll do me. But not often, because no, the last time actually that I drank vodka it was almost a very bad day for other people, but I managed to rein it in. Okay, so last orders, gentlemen and ladies, please. Yeah, any questions I'm happy to answer. I have. No, I didn't do Thecla. Sorry for anyone who can't see the chat. Baz is asking me, did I already speak about Thecla? No, I was going to reel off who I have spoken about off the top of my head, and I realised I can't remember. I can remember the English ones. How bad is that? Saint Bridget of Sweden, Elizabeth Fry, the prison reformer, Shizzle, Joan of Arc, not English, famously anti-English, until we killed her. What else? Who else, rather? Oh, gosh, Booth. Booth. What's her first name? Oh my gosh, that's awful. Can't think. Mrs. Booth, I'm going to call her. Jordan, I have no spare chocolate. Is there such a thing as spare chocolate? I don't understand your question. Yeah, a couple of other. Either way, no is the answer to the question, but I haven't. Yes, thank you, John. Mary, Lion, not Lydon, but yes. Loads is the answer. And what I'll do is I will put them all into a playlist. Catherine, thank you, Baz. What I've done is I've one of the drawers behind me has my brain in it. I'm just keeping it safe for a later date. Oh, I'm so sorry, Jordan. Yeah, we don't serve chocolate here, my love. It's just answers that we have on tap and general waffle. That is gratis, completely free. Yeah. So, yeah, Catherine, but yeah, loads is my answer. And I'll make them into a little playlist to make it easier to find. What was I going to say? Yes, I know what I was going to say. I feel like potentially, if I've got the energy, I'm going to read that in a second. I'm going to, before I lose my train of thought, my next live stream, hopefully, will be more of a psychological one again. And it's going to be on using niceness as a coping mechanism. And some of the problematics associated with that. There's a little bit of the theological slant because it is this chick doing the writing, like writing up the notes. So, yeah. Right. Where was Jeff's? Okay. I do like dark chocolate. But then again, I do like white chocolate. But then again, I do like milk chocolate. Then again, I do love cherry liqueurs with any colour chocolate. Also, I'm not going to advertise. Yes, I've got her on my list, Julian of Norwich, not Hilda of Whitby though. Either way, cranberries with, I feel like it, oh no, I bet I've bought the wrong ones. Nope, I'm right. It's not white chocolate, it's yogurt, and therefore is healthy. Hashtag don't come at me because I don't care. I'm going to eat them anyway. Baz, please don't leave all the suggestions here. Please. No, dark chocolate is lovely. All chocolate is lovely. Let's not be prejudiced. Let's just, all chocolate matters, and that's a fact. That's potentially an eternal truth, except that chocolate hasn't been there from the beginning. Jordan. I thought we were friends. I'm not even going to read your comment. How about that? I'm just going to eat one of my fake white chocolate, not chocolate cranberries. The thing is, Jeff, I heard a rumor that American chocolate's a bit like, I'm just saying, I just passing on information. I think that maybe Europeans are a bit spoiled because we have like Switzerland, Belgium, stuff. I'm not going to get involved in this sectarian chocolate prejudice. I find it disgusting. It's beneath me. Nice. Baz. I've got nothing against men. Love them, in fact. Jesus was one of them. So yeah, I could do some notable. I feel like they've got a lot of airtime already, though, notable Christian men. And I feel like there was some accidental like covering up of women's achievements in maybe the like medieval church when they tried to make Jania into a boy, etc. I don't mean transgender wise, I mean like just putting an S on the end of her name. So yeah, sorry, Russell off the bag. Get that. Okay. One more minute, unless someone asks me something like theological, I suppose. So the psychological vid. Also, I got graded on my last assignment. Whoop. I'll tell you all after. It's a good grade. And it's not really like a conversational tone, but I can also read that assignment, the title of which, paraphrased, was, is the concept of the Trinity consistent with the idea that there is one God, i.e. with the Shema? And I guess which way I argued. I said yes. But I made it into a lot more words than that. Okay. I've started chocolate water. Isaac, hello. Is it a chocolate case? All right. Literally last, I'll never stick to it. Islamo Realist Watcher. I feel like you've changed your name. Was there not a Kaffir in there before? Jordan, see this girl, she's on the ball. She hears me say I'm going to waffle over and out. And she's just on it, boom, laters. See, this is what I need. I need this snappy, boundaries kind of. Yes, Jean, I will do. Although, sorry, I've got a mouthful of white yogurt cranberry in my mouth. Excuse me. If you have a little look-see on my most recent videos, Mary Lyon, I think she was an American. She's not too many far back, actually. Jordan, these abandonment issues of mine and the rejection things, we may have mentioned them a few hundred times between us. But no, I'm all right. Fine. Whatever. I will. Yes, Jane. Yes, have a little look-see on my previous, and I'm always promising something. No, I will do it. I'll do it now-ish, i.e. within the next little bit of time. Exactly, ish, Jordan. All right then. Absence of, Tractarian. I thought it said Trinitarian for a minute. Sorry, I've just got my new spectacles, which are not on my face, obviously. But yeah, I'll go into some more of my, when I do my assignment, I'll go into it more. But I'm trying not to dox myself too much, if you know what I mean. Nice, Jane. See, Jane's. Listen, everybody, welcome Jane Coughlin. Jane's got it on lockdown. Mini cream eggs. If you're in a country where you don't know what this is, I'm going to pray for you, especially tonight, if you leave your name in the comment section, because they are. They're about 1 million calories, but it's not the point. That is not the point. They are worth. Yeah, I've got two now, without advertising one bit. Milk chocolate, quite thick at the bottom, thicker at the top, in an egg shape. Normal ones are like that big. They've got the white bit and the yolk. And what you do is you sort of nibble away at the top bit, break it off like a real egg, as if you're going to put your soldiers in, and then you can just stick it on your tongue, and then just not speak for a little while, and it'll just, yeah, chocolate. I can take it or leave it though. She fibbed. Oh, I see, Baz. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I can have a little talk about it. Yes, John. Yes, we already arranged it, and then I was I did what I wish other people wouldn't do with me. It was agreed, and then if they don't sort of stalk me, I don't forget about it, but I think, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then the one who is more insistent, I end up doing it. But yeah, I'm going to speak with, well, I don't want to speak his business, but a mutual friend of ours is on their way as we speak, winging his way to David, like in person. So they'll probably do a bit tomorrow. And yeah, I'll sort something out at that time. Jeff, you heretic. Dark chocolate. Screaming. Oh. Okay. Just before my brain explodes, I'm going to go because I do have another assignment, because the joy of receiving my grading was marred only by the fact that I haven't done any prep for my next one, because why break the habit of a lifetime? It's just the little breakdown and the stress that I could do with that. But every time I think, no, I'm in the habit now. I'll do a little bit every day, and it sounds so good in my head when I think, yeah, I'll start tomorrow. No. I wonder if lying to yourself is also a sin. If you know you're doing it, you're not really lying. You're just telling yourself a nice bedtime story. Anyway, she's officially waffling, and it's 40 minutes. So I'm going to press the button and say lots of love. And yeah, see you shortly-ish. What is it today? Yeah, tomorrow I'll do a live stream. And then obviously I'll be live streaming from Speaker's Corner on Sunday as per usual. All right, God bless. Thank you for keeping me company. And I'm going to make the playlist. I'm not going to forget to make the playlist. If the playlist doesn't appear soon, someone remind me, please. And it's my pleasure, John, always. And it's a privilege as well. All right, Jeff, always good to see you, sir. Everybody else, always good to see you, ladies and gentlemen. And that's it. Waffle over and out. Blessings. Bye.